Welcome to the Logistics Point interviews. We are joined by Nancy Hobhouse from EVRi, and we're going to talk about EVRi's net zero commitments, their plans, the future, the present, what is happening there. Nancy, thank you very much for joining me.
Hi, Nick. It's good to see you again. Nice to be here.
What are the things that EVRi is planning as an organization, and how do you plan to achieve them?
So in 2021, we set our net zero goals. We have some really ambitious net zero goals, some leading in the industry goals. And what we've decided to do is take the whole entire business to net zero by 2035. What we've decided to do is do in our entire scope. So that's scope 1, 2, and 3. Scope 1 and 2 is your operations, and then scope 3 is all your suppliers. And that's unusual for the sector. Well, it's unusual for most companies. Most companies choose to either just do their operations and a little bit of their suppliers, but we've done the whole entire thing because we think that's right. We're going to do that by 2035. And the reason why we chose that date is because the British Retail Consortium, who, we're associate members of, and, we're really in support. We supply, 80% of the top retail in the entire country. Retail are our clients, and their commitment that the BRC has made for the entire retail industry is for transport to be net zero by 2035. So not only is it the right thing to do and to ensure, that we're following things like this, science-based targets and holding to less than 1.5, but what we're also doing is ensuring that we can service our clients when it gets to that point, because we are the transport, part of the transport for the retail industry, and we want to continue to do that after 2035. And for that, we need to be net zero. So what we're doing is taking it really a little bit more year by year. So what we need to do is ensure that we're hitting that 7% each year. And we have planned out to 2035 to some degree, like all our roadmaps are out there, but we also understand that technology is going to move, but we really plan out the next 3 years and to ensure that we're going to get that and that we have the capital required for that. What we're doing at the moment is looking at our really big chunks of carbon. So our really big chunks of carbon obviously sit with our own fleet. They sit with our couriers, because our couriers are a huge fleet of cars. In peak, we can get that up to 30,000 cars on the road. And then our purchase goods and services are also really, really big. So those are our 3 really big chunks of carbon.
What are the steps you're taking into all of these 3 sections at the moment that you mentioned?
We're very proud that we started moving our fleet over to low carbon way before I even joined in 2021. So bio and CNG, we've been using for a while. We understand that the technology is not really there for very large scale HGV moves to EV or hydrogen. So we're using this biofuel piece as a middle ground because we need to reduce our carbon, but we can't wait until the tech's there. And then we have now included things like HVO, which is a fuel that you can just put into a diesel vehicle and then get it moving, which is great. And then we also have our EV fleet. That's for our van network, and that's growing each year. So now for our own fleet, we're up to 30% across the board. That is a low carbon piece, and we have plans each year to increase that number. The other piece is the purchase goods and services. So that's kind of looking at us and working with our suppliers. We have a lot of incredible suppliers, but we have a lot of them, and any company does, right? So you need a lot of help in being able to operate as you wish. So what we're doing is I'm working with my procurement team predominantly. The first things first is that we're working with our top suppliers to get real data running in. But we speak with their management and say, look, we need the kilowatt, we need your kilowatts for your buildings. We need your fleet carbon numbers. And it's not always the case that they'll be able to give us exactly what we need, but we'll work with them to work out how we can get that data in and running. And then what we're then doing is sitting down and having conversations with them is like, how do we help you reduce that number? But what our plan is to do is, rather than say to a supplier, no, we're not working with you unless you do this, this, or this, we're going to say, okay, when you're not doing that, and that, how can we help in order to reduce and help bring them on that journey? Because we want to encourage our suppliers and we want to help them get, more robust to the future and all that good stuff. So we have, as everyone knows, this incredible network of couriers that sits between 20,000 and 30,000, depending on peak, non-peak demands, right? They all have their own cars. They're self-employed. We keep asking them. They keep wanting to. They stay self-employed. They want to stay self-employed, and it's a great model, and it works for us really well and our couriers. However, if you have a self-employed network with their own cars, we have no decision on what car they use. We also know that we don't want to be affecting their cost their price per parcel for their delivery. So we don't want to be adding cost to them by saying you have to go get yourself an EV van. So firstly, how do we help the client choose the most sustainable journey? The most sustainable journey for us is to go to a parcel shop. So how do we help move that courier delivery piece to a more sustainable future? And that's in two ways we're doing that. Firstly, our e-cargo bikes. So I don't know if you've seen our new e-cargo bikes. So this time last year we were trialing them, and now we've done over 160,000 parcels on these bikes. They have been really successful, and they're working really well for us.
I would assume that all of this, requires you to be able to know what is happening and how it is happening. How hard was it for you to understand your own emissions, but also what's happening with your partners, and then ask the right questions? And which one came first, the right answer, as in these are the targets that we need to reach, and how do we reach them?
Our first point of call when we started this was to do a carbon footprint in detail. So, and really understand where our big hitters were, understand where the materiality was. So we worked with a consultancy the first time around to do that. Now it's all in-house, and we do it with a software system, but we manage in-house. We're just finishing up our third carbon footprint. That's going through the auditors at the moment. And then from there, it was a question of saying, okay, what can we do and what is possible? But then also, to be really frank, we don't really have time to do a forecast. What we have in terms of the country and what we need to do in order to decarbonize. So I could build out a forecast and say, if we spend this much money for this many years, this is where we'll be. But we didn't want to set our target to that. We wanted to set our target where it's necessary for the countries and the globe's carbon decarbonization targets. So that's what we did. So we knew where we were. We knew what our big hitters were. We kind of knew what we were going to be because we forecasted it out. And then we set a goal that was more ambitious than that anyway, because it was the right thing to do, to be really frank.
I also wanted to look into the technologies that you're using. You mentioned software, but you mentioned technologies in terms of cargo bikes, EVs. Is there a technology that you think is going to be the thing to push not just EVRi on their net zero commitments, but just generally the industry's logistics and take us over what we need to achieve?
No, to be really frank, I just don't think that there is going to be one silver bullet when it comes to carbon, especially in the transport sector. I think that it'll be a death by 1,000 knives. So we have these big HGVs. If you want to charge the big HGV, you need a huge amount of power. If it goes to EV, you need a huge amount of power. You need it to sit idle for 7 hours. And then you need to be drawing a lot from the grid. We then have, so that probably won't work, but it might if they look at interchangeable batteries, or the grid completely has a massive upgrade, whatever that is. And then you have hydrogen, which has much more of a chance of working on the big scale, dependent on infrastructure needs and all that good stuff. So each area of transport is probably going to have a different tech answer. And then you've got, small scale cars, and a lot of that is, yes, that will move to EVs, but also a modal shift. Like, can you do things on bikes? There won't be one technology for the whole entire transport sector that's going to change our lives, but there is going to be probably one technology for each bit of the transport sector. And even then, there probably will be a few nuances of it. Like, you will always see a modal shift. HGVs, you might reduce them on road because you move it to rail, and then the stuff you've got left, you move to the different technology. Like, there's all this good stuff, but unfortunately, it's not as easy as going, that's the one thing that we're going to do.
But the next thing will also be infrastructure. I very often speak to people about the EVs. I think that there probably is more work being done in there. But if you're talking about hydrogen, it seems like we are so far away from an infrastructure that can actually sustain operations on the level that we need.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. We have been working with bio-CNG for years and years now, and that is a very similar piece to hydrogen, as in you can't just go up to a petrol station and there is a bio-CNG or CNG fueling aspect. So we have to work on how we get our fueling done at in the right areas. So for us and the hydrogen piece, because we already work to a limited infrastructure stuff, it doesn't seem as scary for us. Although, you hope you'll get to the place where the infrastructure is like it is with petrol and diesel and stuff. We've got to change our entire country and the way we operate, because at the end of the day, ICE vehicles can't be on the road after, depending on what the vehicle is, after 2040. And humans are the most adaptable thing. Like, if you say you can't do something, we'll find a way around it. And so, yes, it seems big and it seems scary, but, as a country and as a world, we're very adaptable. And if we need to move something, we will. And legislation is going to make us do it, because we can't put any new vehicles on the road after a certain amount of time.
Well, Nancy, thank you very much for this. And as usual, people can learn more about what EVRi is doing specifically around net zero in the description below. Thank you very much.